So, good evening. Welcome. Thank you for the introduction, Jim. So I'm going to start off this evening telling you something a little bit intimate about myself, something personal. I have 7 kids. I figured I'd share. The first question that always comes up, any twins? No twins. I have 7 kids. Another thing personal about myself is, although you can't tell it from the shape of me, I try to play basketball 3 times a week. And I manage, or I'm a partner in 3 or 4 different types of corporate service companies. I don't get a lot of time to do reading. I don't read novels. But the reason I mention this is because about 10 years ago, somebody, and I honestly don't even remember who it was, gave me a book. Small little book called The Go-Giver. Okay? Not very lengthy. And it was sitting on the passenger side of my car one day, and I was stopped at a red light, and I just flipped through the first page. Light turns green, flip through the second page at the next red light. Before I know it, I literally pulled over to the side of the road and I read the entire book from cover to cover. And this book changed my life, and it changed the way I do business. Because the theme of the book is about giving value to others. And that's really what LinkedIn is about, and frankly, that's what NIBA is about, giving value to others. And I want to thank the board of NIBA for giving me this slot in particular, because anybody who has ever been to a NIBA conference before knows that this slot is designed by the NIBA board members to teach you something. And the topics that we've had over the years run the gamut from how to deal with market makers, listing on the OTC or NASDAQ, DTC eligibility, different topics that benefit you. And I could go ahead, and if you don't mind switching to the next slide, I don't know if it's up and running yet. I can be up here tonight and teach you, basically give you a lead, right? If I give you a lead, if I make an introduction to a banker, it's a one and done. But true value is if I can help you help yourself in terms of how to be able to learn how to fish. And so my goal here tonight is to be very practical. I'm not here to talk about statistics about LinkedIn and how many people are on there. I consider myself a practitioner. I or my team spend probably between 2 and 3 hours on any given day on LinkedIn marketing. And it's very strategic, and I'd like to show you some of that strategy for you to implement this evening. Go to the next slide. Okay. I'm just going to touch on where I'm coming from, because I think it's important to know that we share the same DNA. Either you are in the public markets right now, or you're looking to get into the public markets. A vast majority of you are between those 2 arenas. So very briefly, I used to be a securities attorney, started a company called Vintage, where we did SEC filings for about 3,000 companies, ended up selling it. Then ended up with a company called V Corp, a company called V Check, which did backgrounds, V Stock, which is a transfer agent, and then e-signature, which provides medallions online. And again, the only reason I'm mentioning it is because I'm coming from your world, and I'm hoping that what I'm going to show you via LinkedIn is going to enable you to have value and benefit for what you are trying to do. But let me be very clear. This is not about social media. I'm not going to teach any of you how to be a YouTube influencer. I'm not going to teach you how to wrap your pitch and put it onto Instagram or InstaFam. And I will go out with any one of you for a drink of coffee, but I do not need to be Facebook friends with any of you. What I would like is to be very strategic and show you how LinkedIn can benefit you regardless of your goal. And I don't mean being on LinkedIn and just putting fluff up there and getting the most number of likes that you could possibly get. Likes are irrelevant in meeting your goals. So to jump right in, by a show of hands in this room, how many people have a LinkedIn account? Fantastic. How many are on it every single day? Better. Okay. Okay. So let's get into it. What are you going to use LinkedIn for? About 10 years ago, I had the opportunity to be at an Inc. 500 conference, and a gentleman by the name of Tony Hsieh, who was the CEO of Zappos, I'm sure you're familiar with, he went on to speak about the definition of happiness. And I've thought about that pretty much every day since that time. And he explained that the definition of happiness means different things to different people. What do I mean? If I'm pitching a product or a service and I'm bringing it to the attention of a CFO, happiness to that CFO might be cost savings. If I bring it to the general counsel, happiness to that person might be compliance. Happiness to the CEO might be generating revenue. So I'd like each and every one of you to take a minute and think about what is your definition of happiness, because that will enable us to define what objective we want to get out of LinkedIn and how to define that success. Do you want to meet bankers and underwriters and engage in conversations via LinkedIn? Do you want to be able to meet customers and generate revenue? Do you want to see what your competitors are doing via LinkedIn to be able to better keep track of industry happenings or even conferences so that you see different events that are going on that could benefit you? You have to decide what is your definition of success before you sit down on LinkedIn so that you know how you can make the most value out of it. I would like for each and every one of you to take a look to the person to your left. Please do it. Come on, humor me. Now take a look at the person to your right. Okay. Each and every one of you just made a first impression to somebody else. And it doesn't matter whether you're wearing a power tie, you're wearing your pinstripe suit, or you're wearing ripped jeans and a t-shirt. Which, by the way, for all of you looking to raise money, it's usually the guys with the ripped jeans and the t-shirt that are the biggest check writers. You are making a first impression. And so, although it's not rocket science, what I'd like you to think about is your profile on LinkedIn is what is going to be your first impression. Let's go back one. Took 3 profiles, okay? The first person I do not know, full disclaimer. And we can get into it more closely at another time, but just at a first glance, the person has a wonderful blank blue as his background. There seem to be 2 people in the photo. There's no last name. It doesn't say what the company does. There's no website. And this is without even scrolling down. This is just that first second. If you're a public company and you've worked so hard to get to that milestone, wouldn't you want to have that at the forefront of your real estate to let people know that you're a public company? This message tells your story, whether it's a photo, whether it's that first summary headline. If you look at the bottom, you see Emily. She's not here right now. She did a great job putting this conference together. We'll give her a round of applause tomorrow when she's in the room. But Emily's, just the photo alone shows a message. It shows a conference, but it shows that it's a dynamic conference. The people in the picture are excited to be there. They look like they're engaged. And if I'm a conference person, that's something that already makes an impression on me. For my picture, it put together a bunch of different messages. It's got NASDAQ, it's got New York Stock Exchange. I want to show that I'm not just involved with public companies, but entrepreneurs also. So it's got me and Damon Johns. I want to show that if you stick with me, I might be able to get you onto the stock exchange floor. All that just from a photo. Okay? A couple of things not to do. Please, don't put yourself in a group photo, because we don't know which of the group it's you. Don't put yourself with your favorite pet, because although it's cutesy, it's not a dating app. To some extent, it is a professional platform. There are people that do all kinds of crazy stuff on here. There are so many pictures you can't imagine of how many CEOs are standing there holding a beer can. Unless you're the CEO of a brewery, you shouldn't be holding a picture of a beer can in your LinkedIn photo. And these are things that give you the opportunity to tell your story right from the get-go. So I want you to think about very specified questions in order to create your profile. Every profile should leave the person that's looking at it with the following. What do you do? Who do you do it for? And why should I care? What makes you stand out? Do you work for yourself? Do you work for a firm? And at the end of the day, the question that the person is asking themselves, how will I benefit if I connect and engage with you? You have to give them some incentive for them to want to scroll down to learn more about you. I want to give NIBA a plug here for a minute, because what we're going to do over the next short few minutes is we're going to break it down into targeting, connecting, meeting, and then branding. But if you're the CEO of a company, you might know your industry extremely well, but you may not know the people in the financial arena. As a CEO, you wear 2 hats. The first hat is to manage your business, grow your business, and do the best you can. In a sense, you're a media company because you've got to tell your story at all times. But also you have another hat to wear, and that's to go out and meet the financial markets and learn who the players are. How are you supposed to do that? And so I put forth to you that LinkedIn is a great platform to do that. So on the NIBA website, nibanet.org, they have a fantastic resource that I encourage every one of you to take a look at. It actually lists the members of NIBA, and on there are numerous financial institutions, underwriters, investment bankers. So if you go to any one of these and you just pick, let's say Lafferty, okay? I was going to do a little demo up here. I think we're short on time and I don't have the laptop connected. But if you typed in Lafferty, which you pulled from the NIBA.net list, then two things will happen for you. Number one is you'll be able to connect to Lafferty as a firm and follow them. So this way, every time this investment banking firm is doing an event, or they initiate coverage, or they are putting together something that could benefit you, you don't have to go out there and search for it. It'll automatically come to you. And then additionally, besides following Lafferty as a banker, you can connect to all the individuals. And so you can connect to the CEO, Rob Hackle. You can connect to some of the players that you think might be in your industry. And then slowly but surely you develop these connections. It takes a lot of work, don't get me wrong. If you try to connect to every one of these investment banking firms, it's going to take time and effort. But it's a phenomenal tool. Let's say, for example, you're not looking for investment bankers. You want coverage in the healthcare industry. You can literally go on to LinkedIn and type in the word healthcare analyst, and I think you'll pull up 39,000 connection possibilities. And the same thing with any business objective. It's phenomenal in that it applies to any industry. You can go ahead and if you're selling insurance and you want to connect to the CFO of a NASDAQ company, type in CFO NASDAQ, it'll give you a tremendous opportunity to target. And the thing that I want to specify is like this. Whether you have 100 connections or 500 connections or 1,000 connections, it's an internal asset. It's homegrown. It's not something that you're just blasting out to the public and you don't know who sees it or who doesn't. This is something that you've actually built that's now yours to be able to message down the road with whatever it is that you want to talk to them about. Now, a connection means that you've reached out to them, they've checked out who you are, and they're comfortable with what you have to offer. And I will tell you, I am probably the most antisocial guy in this room, right? If there's a conference, I'd much rather be the guy that's sitting in the corner pretending to text on his phone so I don't have to speak to anybody. That's me. But I do what I have to do, and if I know that the person wants to talk to me, then I'm a different person. Then I can go up to them, I can discuss, the way we can help each other. When you get somebody that accepts you as a connection, that person has already checked out your bio, it's already checked out your industry, and feels that there might be value in engaging. And so that's a separate story. And then you have to let it breathe a little bit. Once you connect with somebody, I want you to understand that it translates into real life, right? You can't go out with somebody and within the first minute of the first date you say, would you like to get married? You have to let there be time to breathe, get to know each other. It's the same thing on LinkedIn, but you have to be transparent. I'm not suggesting that you connect with somebody and jam something down their throat, but send out a message saying, how can we help each other? How can we provide value to each other? And I'm telling you that it works firsthand, because whether it's somebody that you're trying to engage with, somebody that you're trying to get some advice from, the environment of NIBA is very much a friendly one, an encouraging one, where people value the opportunity to meet with people. LinkedIn, for the most part, is very much that same platform. I want to just wrap up, and I want to tell you like this. There's an element of branding that people don't always recognize. You've got, let's just say you're going down the journey to become a public company, and you dealt with the SEC and the S1s and the 211s and the market makers and the DTC and the DWAC. You've gotten to that point. Now what? People say, now what? Well, now you've got to tell your story, okay? And you've got to fly. So there are two ways to post activities on your site, on LinkedIn, on your profile. One is a bit of a selfish one, but you've got to do it often, otherwise it's not going to be effective. You can post what I say selfish activity. We just got FDA approval on something. We just won this big contract. We just announced this event that we're going to be doing. It's a little bit self-promotional, but it's action items that you want to be putting out there. The more important one and the more beneficial one is something, as we spoke about before with the Go-Giver, where you're giving value to other people and then they want to hear what you have to say. Two quick examples. When I was in the Edgar business, every Monday morning, we would put together an Excel sheet of every S1, S3, and S4 that was filed from the previous week. We had the underwriters, the CEO, the companies, the lawyers, and we would just send this out to our contacts as valuable information. And it got to the point where people came to rely on that as such an important asset of their Monday morning that if we didn't send that out, people would say, like, hey, where's the email? It's something that's easy to do, it's something that's free, and it's something that will help other people. And then slowly but surely, that generosity becomes associated with your brand. It becomes associated with you, and people want to do business. I was chasing a securities attorney probably for 6 to 9 months. Every time I saw him do a deal, I asked if we could get the next IPO. I was getting nowhere. Finally, he called me up and he says, I've got an IPO for you. I said, thank you, I appreciate it. Can I ask what changed? I've been chasing you for 6 months, all of a sudden you're calling me. He said, well, I've been watching your LinkedIn. I see the types of clients that you're welcoming. I see the types of events that you're attending. I see the caliber of clients that you're working with. So LinkedIn can become a branding of sorts, both for you and for your company. And then just to round it off, on the topic of these connections and the groups, you can wake up every morning and find that there's 23, 30, 5 connections waiting for you based on your previous day's work. What better feeling is that than to wake up every morning and see that there's a group of people that would like for you to interact with them? And then when it comes to volume, you can connect with certain groups that are very much on target with what you're looking to do, whether it's going public groups, whether it's raising capital, whether it's insurance, whether it's widgets. But the benefit of being involved with a group is twofold. And with this, I'll end. Number one is that there's volume in the groups. If you're involved, if you're a member of a going public group and they have 1,500 members, then all the activity that you post in that group is seen by 1,500 members, okay? And then the follow-up to that is that if you're a member of that group, then you have the opportunity to connect with them directly. So if you're a member of 20, 30 groups and each one has 1,000 people, you have the potential to tell your story to 20,000 people. That's a big opportunity if you tell your story the right way. And so with that, I will end. I want to offer some value. If anybody has any questions, I'd be delighted to speak about it. I know that we're going to hear from my good friend David Feldman on Reg A, and then we're going to go for drinks. So what I would say is like this. The first 2 people to connect with me or message me after 9 p.m., let's call 9 p.m. the cutoff, I've got 2 copies of The Go-Giver just to start you off with a little bit of value. So thank you very much.